Thank you for tuning into our podcast, Canal Days, What Life Was Like in the Industrial Connecticut River Valley of Massachusetts. I'm your host, Carrie, and joining us today is Holyoke's very own local historian and creator of the historical tours of Greater Holyoke, Robert Como. He personally offers and leads public and private tours, as well as presentations of historical sites within communities throughout the state of Massachusetts. Currently, the communities he has chosen to focus on this year are Holyoke, Chicopee, South Hadley, and East Hampton, and also Granby and Amherst as well. In his tour spotlight on local canals, reservoirs, cemeteries, and churches, as well as various parks, streets, and selected historical houses within each community. In today's episode, we will be discussing the Lovering Schoolhouse in Holyoke, Massachusetts. So why did you select the Lovering School as a 2024 entry for your House in Holyoke Through Time series?
This is the third year of doing the series, the year 2024, and I'd like to choose houses that are inhabited by people or institutions that spread their goodwill throughout the city of Holyoke. It's a natural selection here because not only was it a schoolhouse, it was also a community house, and it was a home to two different families for the year. And so it's only really had 4 inhabitants grouped together. And the first 2 were there at the same time. And we'll explain all these little things. And then there's also one mystery person that'll be very fun to talk about.
And what is the Highland Park Community House?
It was the Lovering School. So in 1917, the outside of Lovering School was finished, and the inside was probably done the next year. So by 1918, it was inhabited by 2 groups, 2 institutions. One was the Highland Park Community House. It became a center for all people that lived in the Highland Park neighborhood of Holyoke. And that was a neighborhood, anything basically north of Fairfield Avenue, which and Fairfield Avenue, anything south of that was the Highlands. But Highland Park, anything north of that, call it a park because you're going to keep a park-like look to the whole area. It includes the Wyckoff Park neighborhood, it includes Jones Point Park neighborhood, and all in between. And so, what's the Highland Park Community House? Well, it was made by Samuel Hoyt, built by him, and he wanted to have a neighborhood that stuck together. And he succeeded in getting that done. And he did that by having his real estate business develop a lot of houses, and any people that moved in these houses were invited to join the Highland Park Community House. And that existed for many, many years. The Lovering School was an inhabitant of these houses from about 1918 to 1939. Before that, it was on Oak Street. And the Lovering School only needed 2 rooms. It probably used 2 rooms in the second floor of the house, and the ground floor was reserved for the community house. And I think that Lovering School were rent-free there. Okay, so we have a lot to talk about the individuals. I've told you about the institutions. The Lovering School was a 1st to 8th grade school, and it started out at 253 Oak Street. And after 4 years of existence, spent 21 years of existence at 250 Pleasant Street, which is the Highland Park Community House.
And really quick before we continue with our interview, just to fill our listeners in, to find out more information, or if you are interested in signing up for any of his various tours, check out his website at holyokecanaltour.org, and there you can find videos and podcasts of the stops along each tour, as well as photos and text of the historical sites as well. And for private tours and other inquiries, you can email him directly at bobcat4214, capital B, at yahoo.com. And his tours make for fun, educational outdoor activities for families and group parties. So getting back to our interview, who is Joseph Pelczarski?
He's the first individual that inhabited 250 Pleasant Street, or the former Lovering Schoolhouse. And he took over, and the house was closed up for many years. It was closed up from 1939 up until 1946, when he finally moved into it with his wife. And the key here is that he did a lot of things in Holyoke. He was a worker at the Epstein Furniture Store as a salesperson. I believe he spent 25 years there. He joined in World War II as an officer. But most importantly, he was a saxophonist with a lot of jazz bands around the United States. And during the Depression, he was in a special project, a part of the projects that Franklin Delano Roosevelt started up to help people get jobs. And the project was a musician's project. And he did two things in that project. He played music at locations around the area, especially in Springfield and Holyoke, including hospitals, old age homes, schools, so forth. And they were trying to get musicians good jobs and get the people occupied during the Depression itself. And he had another job he received from the government was he was a teacher of school children of a saxophone. And so he'd go into schools and teach children in Springfield how to play the saxophone. What a job. And that position only lasted the duration of the Great Depression. When these programs ended and World War II started up, the programs ended, he went off to war. I haven't proven it yet, but I bet he was a musician during the war too. And when he came out, he started playing around the country. Supposedly he played with Duke Ellington. I'm not sure that's true, but he must have been a good saxophonist to have stayed in there this long.
And who is this mystery tenant at the house?
All right, a person named Ellen Hart, H-A-R-T is her first name. Ellen's her married last name. And mystery because what happened to her earlier in life? She married a Joseph Allen, and he had become Massachusetts banking commissioner in 1920. And that was the same year that a person named Charles Ponzi started a financial scheme, a pyramid scheme, to defraud lots of people of millions and tens of millions of dollars. He was successful as long as people kept joining in with their money, and he was not successful. He had a little problem of, if you don't have a lot of people join in towards the end, you got to get money elsewhere. He started taking loans out of a bank that he had taken over, loans that weren't backed up. And it turned out that this Joseph Allen, wife of this mystery tenant at the 250 Pleasant Street, he figured out what Ponzi was up to and broke the scheme. Now the Boston Italian mob got angry at him and put a contract out on his life. The person that was given the contract refused to kill him and told him so and told him his plans. I won't mess up the book that's written about this by telling you too much. But Joseph Allen, when he died, had left his widow, Hart Allen, and she moved to Springfield back with her family. Then she moved to Holyoke onto Madison Avenue, and then she moved to 250 Pleasant Street about the year 1950. She stayed at the house through two owners, and when the deed crossed hands, they told her, as part of the deed transaction, you have to keep Hart Allen as a tenant. And she lived there to her death in 1984. And I won't tell you any more because it's a book and there's also a presentation. This is going to be the third rendition of A House in Holyoke Through Time. Thank you.
And thank you, Robert, for educating us on your tours and historical topics of your expertise. And we want to thank our listeners for tuning in. And check out a large selection of our other podcasts at his website, as well as on SoundCloud.com. And be sure to stay up to date with new podcasts and videos posted daily.